Hello and welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time we confronted Alice. She appeared out of nowhere and essentially started attacking us, trying to take now both Shizuki and Aoko's life. So now we're just running away from her as she turns this entire amusement park into a fantasy land, which, as you can see, is called Snarkification. And boy, oh my god, it's terrifying. Look at this beast. But yeah, we've avoided some of the encounters, went to hide in a burger joint, where then we found out that she turned the entire burger joint into a monster, and then now we're just kind of on the run. So, let us continue. The amusement park had reached the final stage of Snarkification. It was not just the mascot characters that had been granted life. Like the burger joint, even the buildings had begun to transform. The roller coaster that made its way about the park writhed and twisted like a Chinese dragon. Aoko and Sojiro stared dumbfounded by this Ferris wheel, which had grown over 250 feet in height. Hordes of breadmen closed in on them. Oh yeah, those were a thing. As if to offer tickets. Are you ready for this? Ha ha ha. Mobs of trinkets, actual kickshaws, rampaged the park. Whenever a hole was punched in the envelopment, it was instantly filled. It was a battle of attrition with no end in sight. But that was a matter, of course, as there were a few fairy tales about limited resources. Huh, I wonder what that would be. Probably just the main mascot, maybe? Damn, rapid fire. But that's everything. I need an example. What's impossible? I don't know. You're really asking the wrong person for this. He literally thinks everything is possible because everything's new. Aoko paused her firing for a moment. After saying this out loud, she realized just how deep their grave was dug. The amusement park was a treasure trove of fairy tale-esque creatures on any given day. Who could say that it was impossible amidst the newly transfigured knickknacks running around? Yeah. You think breadmen are real? No! Hoping that she was wrong, Aoko bit her bottom lip. Flat Snark was a type of ploy that deployed bounded fields. Seeing as it was commanding so many familiars, it would not be unusual for its main body to have little or even no defenses. Furthermore, if it was modeled from a story about it being untouchable and unidentifiable, it'd be logical to assume that it would collapse in on itself shortly after being discovered. You're gonna take more than that to beat this. This was closer to the truth than Aoko realized. As long as there were the slightest possibility of it being hit by one of Aoko's stray bullets, it would not dare to appear in front of them. Its true form was orchestrating the park from somewhere safe. But where? Thinking in the most basic terms, the Ferris wheel was very safe, as well as a symbol of the park itself, perhaps. Her eyes opened wide at the sudden suggestion. While Aoko had been trying to come up with a plan to overcome this stalemate, it seemed that Sojiro had been racking his brain as well. His proposal was a simple one. If they could not find the Snark, they just needed to take out its master, Alice. Alice had not moved at all from the clock tower. Even from here, they could make out her figure, draped in moonlight.
アリスを殺してもフラットスナークは止まらないし、このトンデモが外に溢れ出すことになる。 だいたい私じゃあの子を殺せないから。よくて半殺しがいいところ。
A breadman, angered at the insults hurled towards his master, moved to attack and was mercilessly burned to a crisp. Toasty, toasty. The two stood back to back, catching their breath. With no plan to speak of and no route of escape, they had reached rock bottom. Meanwhile, the oddities were forming a circle around their prey, as if they smelled blood in the water. Were they to be dragged into a bakery for the oven, minced in a meat grinder at the butcher shop, skewered and paraded around atop the carousel, walked the plank of the thorny pirate ship? After 2 years of slumber, they were eager to welcome their new guests.
一応聞いておきたいんだけど。
何？手短にね。今考え事してるから。
ああ、あの連中が何をしたいか嫌っていうほど伝わってくるんだけど、それってあの子の趣味なのかな？
She doesn't have feelings.
その疑問はなかったわ。連中の人間嫌いは遊園地の怨念とフラットスナークの性格じゃない。基本的にまともなやついないから、アリスの使い魔って。ああ、でも。
Alko was unable to, to deny that there were some similarities.
それで青崎の考え事って止める方法考えついたのか？
期待させて悪いけどお手上げ。あんたが殺されれば止まるでしょうけど。
それは嫌だ。
Yeah, how about no?
とりあえず逃げよう。
しずきくん？
She blinked in surprise at the sudden turn of events. Sojiro, who had until now been meekly following her lead, had grabbed Alko's hand and pulled her with him in a suicidal charge towards a swarm of bread in an attempt to break out of the encirclement. Just smack them to the side.
なんで今の流れでそうなるのよ、あんたは。
Alko nonetheless followed Sojiro's uncharacteristically gun-ho lead, cursing him all the while. Sojiro would not be able to break through the surrounding wall of enemies with brute force. Alko regained her bearings and let fly a spray of magic bullets ahead of Sojiro. They broke through the net and ran as hard as they could. At this point, all that was left to do was what they had planned on the onset, aim to get out of the park. But not before addressing what needed to be addressed.
なんでよ、さっきはあんなに諦めよかったのに。
Alko could not begin to comprehend Sojiro's reaction.
ミラーハウスの時と今は違うだろう。いいから走れ。
違わないわよ。あんたを殺そうとした私も、あんたを殺したいアリスも、理由の結果も同じよ、私たち。
Though she wondered what was getting her so worked up, Alko did not stop. She told herself that the degree of Sojiro's stupidity, charging the breadmen so recklessly, had caused her to lose her cool.
あのね、一緒に逃げてるぐらいで勘違いしないでくれる？言っとくけど私、
I'll do it.
明日に会ったらまたあんたを殺しに行くから。
I'll do it.
死にたくないってんなら、ここで私からも逃げ出したら？
それはまた今度の話だろう。だいたい青崎に殺されるのならいいけど、あの子に殺されるのは嫌だ。
だからなんで？
Why?
だって顔も知らない、話したことさえない相手だ。
It was like someone had doused water over her blazing fury. Alko's anger was snuffed out by the absurd simplicity of his reasoning.
顔も知らないって。
Could it be that Sojiro did not mind being killed by someone as long as he had met them? Alko chased behind him, grimacing at the ever-increasing incomprehensibility of it all. From her spot atop the clock tower, the girl observed the growth of her familiar. Flat Snark, a savior of the discarded. It was a vile, vulgar fairy tale monster who provided those abandoned by fate with a glimmer of hope before snatching it away. Alice had it under her control, but she was still keen to keep the Snark from expressing its bad habits. After completing a lap around the park that had now reached the size of an entire town, the robin made its situation report.
そう。外を目指しているの。
It seemed that Alko was prioritizing the safety of the boy. even if it resulted in wasting an entire day choosing to not capitulate on a decision that was very much like her.
青子のことだから時計代ごと私を焼き払いに来るかと思ったけど。
The blue bird cheeped in response. Was it denying its master's portrait of Aoko? Or agreeing that it was Aoko's style to do exactly that? An outsider might interpret its interjections either way.
退屈？
The robin jumped at being addressed so unexpectedly. It chirped and flapped its wings like a flustered servant, frantic to say otherwise.
珍しく気があったわね。いいわ。せっかくのゲームだし、もう少しだけ盛り上げましょう。
Oh god, there's more. Is that an egg? What stories with eggs? Humpty Dumpty. Calmly, she pulled out a small object from her pocket. It was a dark, gray Easter egg, and emanating from the inside was a ticking of a clock. The robin knew it to be the ploy kickshaw with a bad attitude far exceeding flat snarks, known to be among the best in one-on-one situations. Queen Alice.
称える時間は20分に設定したわ。いつも通り控えめに壊れてきて。
Yeah, if it's about an egg breaking, it's gotta be Humpty Dumpty. And together with the witch's breath, the egg filled with praise disappeared. Suddenly, a strong wind swept through the park. The words, "I could have killed them all by myself," floated through the air. It was a disappointment of something enormous that was both visible yet overlooked. The kitty wheel in the background. Ako and Sojiro continued to dash towards the boundary separating the park from outside. The curio horde that stood in their way had reduced in number. The iron fence that separated the two from the outside world was just over 300 yards away. Fortunately, there were no particularly large buildings barring their path. If the Ferris wheel had stood in their way, that would have spelled the end, but thankfully, it had yet to reach its full strength. The only thing that appeared before them were the weak oddities that could easily be handled by Aoko's simple magecraft. She would have said, "Make it to the fence," if her lungs would allow it. Since Aoko was utilizing an ample mana filling the park, her tank of magical energy was nearly full. Coupled with the fact that the condition of her body circuits was steadily improving to the extent that she would be able to unleash at least one all-out onslaught. Oh no, the egg. Until, above her field of vision, something unusual was hovering. It was locked on Sojiro, hovering 10 feet above him, over to one side.
しずきくん、ちょっと。
ああ、さっきからついてきてる。
Sojiro had seemingly noticed it before Aoko, hence his previous awkward glances towards the sky. In truth, it would have been stranger for him not to notice the thing was practically glued to him. Okay, so it says... Damn, it's backwards. Queen Alice, Moon, Grass, and then some other stuff. I think this is the same, but upside down. In terms of its size, the floating object measured about 3 feet in diameter. Tiles covered its exterior, about which a multitude of spinning lights danced about.
卵かな。
Sojiro asked, not really sure what to call it.
卵？卵って言ったら割れる卵。
Yeah. Her bullets bounced off like it was made of rubber. That trait, the ability to deflect outside interference, confirmed to Aoko that this thing was undoubtedly a ploy kickshaw.
やっぱり外からのルールじゃ壊れないか。しずきくん、あれから絶対に目をそらさないで。いい。何があっても見続けること。視界の隅に入れとくだけでいいから。
ああ。
Aoko picked up her pace as she barked orders. The Eggman who sat on the wall. Yeah, he would crack, just like as the tale spoke of. Nothing anyone could do or say could cause him to fall, but the moment they stopped looking, he would tumble down and break into pieces.
いわく、王様の軍隊でも元に戻せない数の破片。
It was the Mother Goose poem, Humpty Dumpty. If Sojiro was its target, then the moment he averted his gaze, it would tumble and explode.
まあ爆発するかどうかは知らないけど。
Either way, it was going to scatter something troublesome when it fell. Its oval shape, the keyhole adorning the front, and the writing inscribed upon it, they all made her anxious. If it was an egg, that meant that it was going to hatch at some point. Even if he continued his stare, once the time came for whatever was inside to come out, they would have even less ability to conserve their energy.
青崎、早すぎないか。あまり全力で走ると。
後のことは考えないで。いいからしずきくんは卵だけに集中して。
At the critical juncture, Breadman stepped out to join the egg and block their path.
邪魔！
The Breadmen were marching forth in a grand battalion. At her level of firepower, Aoko should have easily mouthed them down. However... Oh no, now they were bready.
肩焼きかこの。
Ah, that's the only reason why. On level 2. If Snap failed to do the job, then it was time for her to put her crest to use. Draw, a formula-triggered bullet encased in a full wind jacket. If her previous shots were equivalent of a machine gun volley, then this was her artillery shot. The hard crust bread that had absorbed her snap without a dent scattered into thousands of tiny pieces at her draw's torrent. He's like, holy crap. Whoa. Of course, the destruction did not end with just the breadmen. Sending bricks flying, the previously paved road was now bare. The nearby stall had turned into a skeleton of steel beams. It was a spectacle that made Sojiro question which force the wall of breadmen or Ako's ability to lace waste to things would obstruct their path more. She's like, oops.
なんで距離取るのよそこ。そばにいないと危ないじゃない。ほら、もっとこっち。
Are you sure you're safe?
言っとくけど、あんたがあいつらに囲まれちゃったらアウトよ。私、人質とか意味ないタイプだし、そもそも区別して撃つとかそういうのできないし。
This made a lot of sense to Sojiro. He had not fully appreciated the part about hostages, but he got the gist of it.
つまり、今はどこであろうと危険なのか。
あんたね。
Offended though she was by his typical naive response, she could not help but be impressed. Sojiro was a straight arrow through and through. His eyes stayed firmly focused on the egg overhead, even amidst the chaos of melee unfolding before him.
その分なら安心か。物分かりは悪いけど、一度言われたことはきっちり守るあたり、あなたのいいところよね。
Except for that one time on the second floor with the maze with the automaton.
そんなことより青崎、俺の気のせいならいいんだけど、さっきのパン、硬くなかったか。
まあね、あいつら少しずつ強くなってきてるわ。
They're getting stronger.
大量生産が軌道に乗ったんで、今度はクオリティアップをテーマにしたのかも。しずきくんでもお察しの通り、ここからは手強くなっていく一方よ。あのパンたちでさえ個体差が出てきたみたいだし。
They'll be just like real people soon enough.
考えたくないけど、そのうちジャム塗ったりレタス乗っけたり、果ては合体したりして。
Though she was joking, her eyes were dead serious. Sojiro shuddered at the thought of the situation growing even more dire.
じゃあ、そのうちミラーハウスの人形ぐらいに怖くなるのか、あいつら。
間違いなくね。そこまでレアなパンになったら、私も自分だけで手一杯になる。ところでしずきくん、ああいうのと喧嘩できる？
Sojiro shook his head, a look of complete aversion upon his face. No.
なら急ぎましょう。いろいろ余裕ないんだから。
Ako took a quick, deep breath, then began to sprint once again. Far in the distance, through the fog, the iron fence waited, 300 paces away. As long as nothing happened, they would make it there in one piece. Sojiro followed after Aoko, holding on to that all too convenient hope. But hope was something ever fleeting. It lasted not even 300 yards. The edge of the amusement park may as well have been at the edge of the world. Huh? Oh, that's a lot of gates. Okay. Dozens of undulating horizons could be seen, crowding the sky like a giant cloud or a thick curtain, or perhaps groaning lips. It was the end of the road, the outer limit of an outrageous and fantastical realm. And yet, Alko found it to be much like the last page of an enormous picture book. The sight turned her mind blank. Well, this is about as bad as it gets, she thought. The snark, this island of despair, had at last brought Alko to her knees as she stared at the swelling border. The park indeed had an end. Even now, as Alko and Sojiro had expected it to be, a fence divided the amusement park from the residential area neighboring it. It had both doubled in height and made sturdy, another hurdle she had foreseen before even laying eyes on it. Expecting it to have been snarkified, Alko had come prepared to demolish an obstacle or two. But this construction before her went far beyond a mere wall. It was an ocean that spread the underworld from the mortal one. Separated the mortal world from the underworld one. The iron fence was like a restless, surging sea. 1 or 2 walls could easily be toppled. Even 10 or 20 could be dealt with one way or another. Between the powers left in her body and that which filled the park, putting on a brave front was within her power. She could fully mobilize her circuits and her crests to the point of a burnout in a latch-dish effort, like some reenactment of a parting of the Red Sea. Even if a path could be opened, she would not have the energy left to walk it. And it was obvious what would become of her afterwards. The residents would hardly forgive her for wreaking such havoc under their park. Like ants drawn to honey, it would swarm the helpless girl and tear her to pieces. Despondent and exhausted, she felt the faint sting of remorse. Escaping the park? Looking back on how they had gotten here, Alko recognized that her choices had been her undoing. Under the golden full moon, beams of steel bent and merged like wire-frame sculptures. It was only a matter of time before the amusement park became one colossal monster. The horde of familiars, gathered in the plaza where Alice was, had formed an impenetrable blockade around her. Just above the head of the boy beside her, the whispering egg, called Scratch Dumpty, continued to shuffle what appeared on its surface.
Aozaki.
Shizuki-kun.
The boy's voice snapped Alko out of her trance. If only for a moment. The snark reality of the situation quickly dawned on the novice mage. The sheer hopelessness of it all, as it ripped out and snatched away any will she had to resist.
ゲートに行こう。ここはどうしようもないけど、入り口ならもうちょっとマシだろ。フラットスナークだっけ。こいつにもルールがあるって言ったじゃないか。なら、これは役割の問題だ。初めから鉄柵は通れない壁だけど、ゲートなら出入り口として機能しているかもしれない。
Sojiro had not given in to panic. Alko found herself honestly admiring Sojiro's ability to analyze Snark's characteristics, given the circumstances. Now calm, she steeled her resolve.
そうね。確かに門はあると思う。けど、たどり着くのは難しいわ。一番弱かった焼きたてパンですら、今はもうあれだもの。広場や入り口には、もっと上等なのがたむろしてるだろうし、門だって、あの観覧車以上の怪物かもしれない。確か、大きなキッツィちゃんだったでしょ、正門って。
青崎はゲートには行かないのか。
まあね。それよりこっちの方が現実的だし。
Alko took another glance at the undulating iron fences. It was too late to achieve their goal of making it out alive. In that case, she decided to prioritize the other promise she had made.
今からこの鉄柵を壊すから、あなたはそこから外に出て。それで、私の役割はおしまいよ。
Though her words were few, her tone told the whole story. She was telling him to escape by himself.
信じられない。こんなの青崎だけじゃ壊せないだろ。
私だけならね。でも今はこの遊園地が味方してる。燃料がこれだけあるんだから、私は重心になるだけでいいんだし、一発でかいのお見舞いしてやるわ。ま、それでも一回が限度だから、穴を開けたらあんたには全力で走り抜けてもらうしかないけど。
She would carve a path through the iron sea of fences, gambling on one final effort, a great incantation to launch a massive projectile that pushed her over her limits to the extreme. As an outsider, Sojiro could not even begin to imagine how much of a burden this would be for her. All he could imagine was a hazy vision of Aoko being left behind in this park. What happened to her? Would that girl in the black come to save her? Cruel as it was to imagine, he knew she would not. After Aoko had exhausted her very best in order to save him, that girl would not stay her hand. The only way Alice would let Aoko off the hook was if Aoko had killed Sojiro as payment. And so...
20メートルぐらい離れてて、準備に手間取るけど、その卵の表面が茹で上がるまでには終わらせるから。
Wait a second. Oh, okay, whoops. I saw Get Back 50 feet, but I was like, I heard her say 20 meter, and I was like 20, 50. Oh, right, yeah. Okay. It went without saying that this was the only path.
待ってくれ。俺を逃がすって言うけど、それに意味はあるのか、青崎。
ないけど、外に出られたところでアリスから逃げ切れるとは思えないし。けど、これぐらいは最後の意地よ。守るって言ったんだから、できるところまでやらないと。
Oh man, they're both so stubborn. Surprised by her seemingly moral stance, Sojiro saw Aoko in a new light. But of course. Sojiro realized that she was not fighting for his sake, but for the sake of her pride.
そうだったな。けど、それなら俺だけ逃がすのはらしくないぞ。
何よ。いいから離れてて。
For some reason, Aoko took a step away from him. She was recalling how, an hour ago, he had gotten the better of her.
青崎、まだ意地を張れるんなら、他のことをやろう。このお化けみたいな鉄柵を壊せるなら、他に壊すべきものがあるはずだ。
ないわよ。悪いけど、私は目に見えるものしか壊せないの。最後まで形のない希望にすがるとか、考えるのも寒気がする。いい？今はフラットスナークなんかより、この壁を壊してあんたを足抜けさせるのが私の現実。私に負える最大限の責任って。
逃げるのか？
Oh wait, from the responsibility? Aoko was just about to turn her back on him when Sojiro clutched her hand. His words, oh my gosh, she looks so pissed. His words caused something inside her to boil with rage. Oh my god. It was as though someone had set her heart on fire. The surprise that pricked open her true feelings and disappointment she felt towards herself thawed her frozen limbs.
誰が逃げるのはそっちで、逃がしてあげるのはこっちだって言うのよ。甘く見ないで。いざとなったら遊園地ごと爆破してみせるわ。
そうか。ならここで俺を逃がすのは無駄だな。その気迫は本命のために取っておこう。それまでは俺も手伝うから。
は？手伝う？それこそ無駄な気遣いよ。あったまきた。いいから逃げろバカ。だいたい走り詰めで息も絶え絶えなやつなんか使えないわよ。
そりゃいい加減ヘトヘトだけど、そういう青崎なんか疲れ以上に傷の方が痛んでるだろ。
Not to mention the injury to her back that Aoko had nearly forgotten about. Even now, she couldn't ignore the pain that the automaton had inflicted on her spine. With iron will, she managed to push it out of her mind. Mostly.
ほら、魔術とか抜きにすれば、まだ俺の方がマシじゃないか。入り口までおぶっていくことぐらいなら、なんとか。
できないことは口にしないで。もういいから言って。慣れているもの、私は。でもあなたは違う。こういうの初めてでしょ。だからいいの。
The fact that they were a team. The fact that she would still have to kill him after all of this. None of the irony was lost on her as she said these words, because none of it mattered anymore. Still, Sojiro didn't let go of her hand. He gripped it even harder. His expression was the same as ever. Aoko frowned, trying to figure out if he was upset with her.
確かにこういうのは初めてだけど山じゃ危険な目ぐらい合ってる鹿に襲われたことだってあるんだぞ俺は
A deer or this giant, like monstrous living amusement park. As a city girl, she had no idea what it meant to be attacked by a deer, but his determination was apparent enough. True. Looking back on it now, he had maintained his composure through it all. A normal person would barely be able to talk through such panic. Perhaps growing up deep in the mountains, far from civilization, had taught him how to stay calm in the face of so much.
だから信じてくれ少しでいいから
He spoke his plain, unadulterated feelings, and released his hand. There was no lie in him. In fact, he was too honest, so much so that she found it hard to believe him. Sojiro had no reason to go that far. As it stood, Aoko had no future. After confessing this and telling him to escape, why did this boy still offer to help a person like her?
わからない。どうしてそこまでするの？私に付き合えばあなたは死ぬのよ。これが最後だからちゃんと考えてよね。あなたはここで逃げるべきよ。
それはわかるよでも行かない
Sojiro answered immediately, realizing that Aoko was looking for his reason. This level of insight in Sojiro demanded a round of applause.
そうすると青崎が死んでしまいそうだ
His words were as irrational as always.
だからどうしてそこまでするのよあんたは。
She was yelling out of frustration. After thinking for a moment, Sojiro replied,
そりゃ君が好きだからだろ
Simple and to the point. His face seemed to ask why she would even question him so. There was a pause, no more than 2 seconds. His surprise attack stopped Aoko in her tracks. Alice was not the only one who had an ace up her sleeve. That line reached deeper than even Flat Snark could ever hope to. All Aoko could respond with was an expression of pure shock. Oh man, I wonder if he means romantically or just as a person, because I don't know if he can make the difference. It was a simple, stubborn reason, the strongest kind on earth. Sojiro Shizuki was indeed incomprehensible, to be able to work unconditionally with someone who was trying to kill him. But she felt as though she'd finally grasped a sliver of his true nature. Tobimaru and the other assessments of him was correct, as vexing as it was for her to admit.
バカね。私はあなたのこと嫌いなのに。
He laughed at her sour grumbling. At this point, he was used to her insults. Their clash of wills ended here. Aoko's blood ran hot from her blazing heart. If he was going to make a face like that, all she could do was to try and think of a way to get them both home.
私だって逃げっぱなしは性に合わないし。いいわよ。最後まで粘ってみる。それにしずきくんが付き合ってくれるなら、何かの役には立つでしょ。
Though her tone had lightened, there was still hesitation in her eyes. It was only natural. Aoko had not even a clue as to how to begin to fight the snark. If only she had been just a bit more skilled, or had trained just a bit more, there might have been some way to look for it.
我ながら情けない。せめて正体を暴く手がかりでもあればいいんだけど。
Without realizing, she let her apprehension show. Whining was pointless. She would just have to figure it all out by herself, but...
なんだ正体さえ分かればいいのか
I already got it figured out. Aoko gave him a look, as if to ask what that was supposed to mean.
いやだからおかしなものはどれかってことだろ
Sojiro also made a face that suggested that she would have brought it up sooner. Come on.
わかるのあんた。
多分いや結構前から気になっていたんだけど
Why didn't you say anything? Sojiro whispered in her ears quietly. so as to not be overheard. Overheard by what? It was certainly unexpected, but then again, equally obvious. After he explained the mistake, she knew right away that he was correct. At last, she had an inkling of Flat Snark's original form, namely... Oh, they're not going to tell us until we get there. Damn it. Oh, it's a time when they talk about their plan but hide it from us so that they can show what they do while they're doing it. They strategize for 10 minutes. After deliberation regarding the Snark's true form and figuring a plan of attack, the two exchange nods in acceptance of their roles.
それじゃあここからは別行動ね。でもミラーハウスの時みたいなのは勘弁してよ。この作戦の肝はあなたなんだから。開始1分でドジったら本当に打つ手なしだからね。
I kind of like this shot, even though it's kind of basic. Though she jabbed him for his previous failures as a decoy, her voice was bright. Aoko's original vigor had returned to her at Sojiro's discovery of the truth. Meanwhile, Sojiro was also getting serious in his own way. He took Aoko's warning to heart.
ならいいけど、いい？さっきと立場は反対よ。失敗したら死ぬのは私じゃなくてそっち。もうフォローに回れないから、できるだけ慎重にね。
わかってる。今更ながら、やっぱりさっき逃がしてもらえばよかったと思うぐらい慎重だ。
Sojiro nodded, telling her to leave it to him. Though he made it sound like he was holding a grudge, it seemed to him to be the only way of showing her his resolve. Aoko let out a sigh of defeat. Once more, she couldn't figure him out.
ほんと、大バカなんだか大物なんだか。でも任せた。期待してるわ、しずきくん。
She had wanted to say that she believed in him, but apparently that was too embarrassing for her. Oh, look at her smile as she runs away. Aoko turned away from Sojiro and began to run. She had begun to think that maybe this change of pace was not so bad after all. So, true form, what could it be? Let's see if it's here. They mentioned a dragon, which was a roller coaster. There's also a Ferris wheel, but they also said that it's probably going to be something we've seen, but also weak and exposed. Is it gonna be like the clock tower again or something? I have no idea. And so ended the intermission. The young cast were handed their new lines. But what of the climax? At long last, this night of witches had entered its climax. Oh.
別行動？あの二人が？
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing either. She was filled with foreboding at the Robin's report. Apparently, they had gone in opposite directions. The park's resident had set off after the boy witness, and it would take them a mere 10 minutes to capture him, so the bird said.
どういうこと？追いかけているのは本当に彼？青子が変装しているのではなく？
The robin flapped its wings, tripping away any doubt. It had seen them with its own two eyes. Aoko was heading for the plaza, and the cocky brat was making a run for the roller coaster.
青子が彼を見捨てた？で、そんな簡単なことならいいけど。
Oh man, I think I missed that
彼
line.
に張り付いているの？青子が彼を見捨てた？ですって？
Oh, deste. The robin nodded enthusiastically. It didn't know about the other birds, but with its superior night vision, it had seen that sucker clearly because he had moved to a high point.
ダンプティはなんて？最後まで歌わせろ。こんな褒め殺したい間抜けはまたとない。ですって。
For a fool, this asinine. Scratch Dumpty was a ticking time bomb that would drop and detonate the moment its target averted its gaze. That is, as long as the target continued to observe him. In a way, he was a gentlemanly ploy kickshaw, though Alice wished he would forgo such niceties when in battle.
そうね。視線を切らないだけではダンプティからは逃げられない。表面の詩が完成すれば扉が開く。
Once the poem on its surface is complete, the door will still open. Ah, that's what the timer is.
彼がどこまで逃げようと、あと少しでダンプティが閉まってくれるわ。
Until the park, or rather the snark, was destroyed, Sojiro would not be able to escape. Which meant the larger concern was Aoko. Aoko had promised to protect the boy, which begged the question, where was she running to?
ここにいる限り、青子の動向はつかめない。
Alice looked out over the park, ignoring the robin's attempt to get her attention with its plumage. Flat Snark had nearly reached its full size. It was a different breed of beast compared to the other cheap ploys. To her, it was one of her 3 most irreplaceable and precious familiars.
そうね。任せたわスナーク。青子が諦めない以上、あなたも手は抜かないで。
To her knees. Alice remained where she was. With the same historical merit as a troll under the bridge and a poison-clawed reptile, Flax Snart was one of Alice's ultimate ploys. She was placing her trust in its reputation and ability.
でも忘れないで。これはゲームよ。勝敗がついたのなら、私のところに帰ってきて。
The drifting fog ignored its master's words. It was the one thing that Alice had misread. Flat Snark was a king, even among the other ploys, of terrible vulgar antics. Death to the defeated, gruesome tragedy to the vanquished. It found no pleasure unless it brought about the total ruination of life and wealth. Oh no, that was just some random noises I made. The fog billowed like the wicked laughter. After all, only a king had the right to decide the fate of the vanquished, and the Snark's greed could not be contained. Thus, it hadn't even the slightest intent to play fair, despite its master's orders. Well, we're going fast! Over 100 feet high. One careful step at a time, the figure made its way gingerly up the track stretching into the heart of the amusement park. He stayed his beating chest and the pounding of his breath. Even tiny movements were an obstacle to his progress. Amazingly, the one making this paled-faced advance higher and higher was Sojiro. Oh wow, look at this. You see most of the amusement park, I guess. Far below, he saw a horde of bread creatures that had congregated by the roller coaster platform. As they bustled this way and that, their numbers continued to increase by the minute, seemingly cheering on Sojiro with raised arms as he made his ascent. Or jeered him more like, beckoning him to come down.
助かった。あれ、高いところは苦手なんだ。
Of course, Sojiro neither Wait. Of course, Sojiro neither did Sojiro. I guess it's, of course, neither did Sojiro, but his current state was the lesser of 2 evils. The only thing that followed him was the floating egg. After heaving a huge sigh, Sojiro bent forward a bit and climbed the track that reached to the heavens. 150 feet now. If this were a skyscraper, he would be on the 16th floor. A strong gust of wind whipped through his hair. Humans had an instinctual fear of heights. In particular, a place like this, which called forth visions of falling to one's death, would cause a person's knees to tremble against their will. It was an instinct that forewarned death, urging its master to return to the safety of the ground. It was a reasonable reaction. Climbing the roller coaster tracks went beyond funny stories and into the realm of fantasy. The strong winds and change in the air pressure were a hindrance. His instincts screamed at him to stop, causing his limbs to go numb, his muscles to go limp, and his mind to race. Even if he had been tied to a lifeline, a mere 15 feet of climbing would still have caused his thoughts to freeze out in sheer terror. And it would only get worse from here, exponentially so. Every foot forward increased the load on both his mind and his body by another degree.
よし、頂上まであと少し。
The burden on his mind notwithstanding, he carefully measured the toll on his body with every step. His legs, which had carried him running with this far, threatened to buckle the moment he let down his guard. This fatigue was likely why Aoko had stressed that Sojiro's role was more dangerous than hers.
待てよ。 逆を言うと、疲れてなければなんとかなると思ってたんだよな、青崎は。
Sojiro laughed as he stared at the floating egg. He reflected on the course of events that had led to this absurd situation. Not even 10 minutes ago, they had been engaged in conversation.
じゃあ次ね。正体が分かった以上、あとはどう壊すかを話し合いましょう。
You're not gonna tell us what it is? Okay, gotta make it tense. Sojiro felt a shudder travel down his spine as Aoko's smug grin. Look at In hindsight, Aoko had been more than happy at this point to make him do something absurd.
どう壊すかって、それなら。
Sojiro had spoken up, figuring that what he was about to say was silly, especially considering that Aoko had the magecraft to tear clean through the fence. Furthermore, up until now, he had not once offered his insight as to the true form of Flat Snark, only due to his disbelief that there was nothing they could have done about it, even if they were the wiser. But that had changed. For Aoko, the impossible is quite literally within her grasp.
そうでもないわ。私の目算だと、あと50メートル分、ギリギリで届かない。
Is it the dragon roller coaster? I mean, you could always see it, since it's always like going around the park. Despair filled Sojiro's eyes. Aoko lifted a hand to her long hair, and with the magical energy in her fingertip, cut a clean tuft from her head.
足りない分は努力と根性ってね。あなたはできるだけ高いところまで逃げて。頃合いを見て合図を出すから。そうしたらこれを空に放ってくれる？
But based on where Aoko pointed her gaze, she did not really mean to leave it up to Sojiro to pick the highest place he could find. Aoko was staring conspicuously at one of the amusement park's two main attractions, the roller coaster.
つまり、青崎とは別行動をとって、あの怪物たちに追われながら、高いところに逃げ込めと。
So it's gonna be somewhere high, and he has to alert her or signal to her. Probably for her to shoot her level 3 ult. What could it be?
そういうこと。ほら、あのうねうね動き出してるコースターのレールとかよくない？
Do they have a hot air balloon or something? Or some kind of balloon thing that would go that high? There are two demons in this park. Her smile made Sojiro want to respond that was far from perfect.
疑いたくはないんだが、本当はあの子とグルで俺を遠回しに殺そうとしてるんじゃないか。
Dude, they would have killed you like 5 times over.
あら、私に殺されるのならいいんでしょ？
人の出現を悪用するのは良くないと思う。
Sojiro hung his head. This was not sane. If he did not do as she said, he would die from exhaustion before Kitty even had a chance to eat him.
私だって鬼じゃないわ。ほら、こっち向いて。
Sure looked like that extremely dangerous, awful automaton monster who had a terrifying face.
おまじないかけてあげる。
It was the lightest of touches, close enough for their breath and skin to come in contact. Aww. Wait! Oh! This song is the reason I bought this game! Okay, I'm gonna sit here for a little bit, but this is I guess an instrumental bell version of the song that I really liked. Dun 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 dun. Okay, I'm satisfied. Sorry for the little pause. He finished with a hushed voice. For one of them, this was a rather mundane magecraft. For the other, it was a head-spinning sneak attack of intimacy.
軽く、弱く、うまく、早く。
Be light and frail, nimble and fast.
チクタクチクタク。急げや急げ。
Tick tock, tick tock. There's no time to waste. Words that could not be produced by a normal larynx carried a particular weight to them, reverberated against his eardrums. If his words were given color, these would have been the color of her name, blue. Sojiro's exhausted body and burning blood gently cooled.
飛ぶ、泳ぐ、駆け抜ける。
Fly, swim, run.
チクタクチクタク、汽笛を鳴らせ。
Tick tock, tick tock. Sound the alarm.
星はいつでも北の空。どこまでも、いつまでも。
A star is always in the northern sky, no matter where you go. I just noticed they're both English. In reality, it took but a few seconds. But the sudden contact had felt a little longer until it ended.
よし、暗示成功。成功したはず。ここまで手応えがあったの初めてだし。アリスの小言もたまには役に立つじゃない。
A very merry Aoko stood aside a very confused Sojiro. After he asked what the heck had occurred, she responded.
簡単な暗示よ。一時的に恐怖心を消しておいたから、高いところに登っても平気なはず。
Oh, that's useful.
あの手の作業で一番足を引っ張るのは動揺でしょ。恐怖も何も感じなければ、地上何メートルだろうと平均台とそう変わらないってわけ。
Oh, you could do that? He seemed to get it. It actually all sounded like Greek to Sojiro, but he accepted it as an explanation for her strange actions. Oh, but that was really sweet though. Oh, I'm starting to ship them so hard. He had arrived at the summit of the track. At a height of nearly 200 feet, Sojiro had a bird's eye view of the entire amusement park. He was able to spot Aoko's figure right away. Where is she? Can we see her? No, I don't think we can see her here. In the plaza, not far from here, she seemed to be occupied with something conspicuous. Her surroundings lay still. The breadmen were still busy trying to figure out how to reach Sojiro by trial and error from the roller coaster entrance. They had over 300 feet of distance to cover. The strong winter gales quickly dried the sweat on his brow, but he was drenched underneath his shirt. This much sweat was worth at least half a mile run, not to mention all the scares that he had experienced through the night. He felt a wave of relief, but not at the thought of Aoko destroying the Snark and this nightmarish park. He was simply happy that he could repay a bit of debt from the House of Mirrors. Oh, is that it? A blue bullet rose from the plaza where Aoko was located. Sojiro stood up atop the tracks, pulled out the pouch that he had stowed in his pocket, and tossed it forward. Without any regard for his questionable footing, I was about to say, he gave a mighty overarm pitch. I was gonna say, like, holy crap, if you were just like gonna chuck it like that on something that's so unstable, you would fall right off. The small pouch drew a parabolic curve in Aoko's direction, quickly becoming untied in midair. Whoa! Yeah, we saw her cut off her hair before, or I assumed so, but this is confirmation. Inside the bag was a lock of her hair and a small stone weight. So he did his job. Aoko had said, but Sojiro's efforts that had set up the plan in motion. The tuft of her hair remained airborne, drifting as if it was watching over its owner. Sojiro's job was done. Oh no, Humpty's turning red. His remained concerned about the egg hovering over him, but there was still nothing he could do about it. Sojiro breathed a sigh of relief and leaned forward to watch the rest of his plan unfold. But then... in the corner of his eye, he thought he had spotted something familiar approaching Aoko. Something familiar. Lobster? Creepy burger thing?